Board Workshop, September 10th, Friday. And we would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are able to stand, please do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and we do have a quorum. I believe we have Ann Brown on the phone in front of us, right, Ann? Are you
Correct, Dave.
Okay, great. Okay, our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the June 4th, 2021 workshop. Are there any corrections or changes that need to be made to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, then they will be accepted as written. And I'd like to go to welcoming. I'd like to welcome Harry Standenbein to his first official board workshop, having been elected last March, and to Jim Sloan and to Tim Hurley, both appointed in August to fill vacancies until next June 30th. Welcome back to the board. Each of these two gentlemen have previously served 4 years, each with a 1-year hiatus in between. And also welcome to Lisa Vines, serving as our board secretary. Lisa had a 1-month experience last year before starting her regular term. And also to returning board members, Roberta Davidson and Sharon Heddick, Ann Brown, our treasurer, who's on the phone, and Donna Maloney, the VP. And I'm Sue Fitzsimons, the board president for this year. Also on stage with us is our general manager, Bill Schwind, and Karen Repkin, our governing board executive assistant, and our parliamentarian, Bonnie Ellis. So welcome to all of you. And I'll go into some reminders. We have a long postponed goal-setting session that's going to take place on September 29th, and we have tentatively established 4 goals. Dealing with resolution of the club tax status issue is number 1. Much work, of course, has already been done on that process. And we'll also be hoping to begin the development of a master plan for the rec centers. We're going to also work on improving our communications with board members and with the community and with staff. And then updating some of our bylaws and policies that are not already covered with our committees. And I could use a couple of board members that want to help to plan that goal setting, so let me know later on. And another reminder for the board members, we are doing some walkabouts at the different rec centers, and they'll take place in September and October. And the purpose is to familiarize directors with the nooks and crannies of many of our facilities. So be sure to let Karen know of your attendance. Just for the public, the Properties Committee also does walkthroughs, and they have a set purpose. So those are going on, and then of course we have the regular ones that Phil provides for the community, so that new members or existing members in our community can have a tour. So they each have a little different focus. But those are going on. And then just a word about our meetings for the good of the order. The board meets twice a month, and our committees meet monthly, except for BNF, and that meets twice a month. And generally at our workshop, of which this is one, we discuss issues, we receive recommendations from committees, we receive informational items, and then we determine which things we want to move forward to a majority vote at the regular meeting at the end of the month. So motions are not necessary at this kind of a meeting because we are not taking any kind of a vote at the workshop. The workshop is for discussion. Sometimes we have to take a consensus vote to determine to move things on. And we also do all of the above as well at our regular meeting that takes place at the end of the month. And this time it's on the 23rd of September. At each meeting we try to provide an opportunity for the public to make comment, either after each item or at the conclusion of our meeting. So that's kind of how we operate. When I first was on the board, I had a little difficulty figuring out exactly what we do with all these meetings. So that is a little summary for you. Okay, now are we on to 4.01? And the first one is our bylaw revision. To jog our memory, at the June 4th workshop, we moved ahead the publication of a revised bylaw 4.16, which deals with requiring that a governing board director must be available year-round by any means possible for the business of the association. When the bylaw was changed in 2020, there were 3 items listed as requirements for completing a term. And number 3 referred to requiring a year-round person availability. And that was eliminated due to a law that required that we no longer have to have that as a possibility of a full-time person. Excuse me. Hence, we rewrote number 3 because it had just been eliminated and not written. So we revised that number 3, like it was kind of like an oversight, I guess, at our June meeting. And we cleared up some grammar and some typos that occurred. I don't know if you can see that behind me. Is that what's going on up there? And so because it was a bylaw, we're required to post that for 30 days before we can vote on it. And then a bylaw change also requires a 2/3 vote, not just a simple majority, after it's been posted for those 30 days. So the change was posted in the July issue of the Rec News and posted on our other regular sites. Therefore, your president is asking for consensus of the board to move this issue to a vote at our regular meeting at the end of the month. So are there any questions about this item? Okay. Then do I have consensus to move this ahead to a vote at the end of the meeting, end of the month?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, it appears that we will put that on our agenda. As an aside, your president has also asked Tim Hurley to begin reviewing some of our policies and bylaws that are not reviewed by committees. Basically, those are L, C, and M policies, as well as maybe beginning work on all of our policies. We'll see how far we can get with that. So Tim has volunteered to take on this task, so I thank you. Any questions from the audience? Okay, next item, the elimination of FY2020. This fiscal policy establishes a village store. As we now know, it has been closed. Your president recommends that pending the recommendation of the BNF committee, which meets only once this month, their next meeting is September 20th. So pending their recommendation, we move this elimination of this policy forward for a vote at our meeting at the end of the month. Anne would like to take this discussion to her committee to receive the recommendation. So my request is to take this forward for a vote at the end of the meeting, end of the month, depending on the recommendation of the BNF committee, because that is their policy. Okay, do I have consensus questions here? Questions first? Consensus to move it forward to the end of the month for a vote?
Yes.
Okay, appears that we have consensus. Do we have any questions, comments from the audience? Okay, we'll put that on the agenda. The next item is the RR&Ps revisions. As Chartered Clubs Committee Chair, Donna will report on the recommendations of the Chartered Clubs Committee. As a point of clarification, according to our bylaws 8.1.2.1, the RR&Ps are drafted by the Charter Club Committee. Then they're reviewed by the general manager and approved by the governing board. Also, nothing in our bylaws would require a change for the changes that are being recommended for the RR&Ps. And the Chartered Clubs Committee has no other policies. They go directly from bylaws to RR&Ps. This committee has worked the month of August, being called off of vacation, to do a thorough job of melding the tax status issue with the RR&Ps so that clubs would have clear direction when they came back into the season. Donna worked closely with our new recreation manager, Casey Huta. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Okay, way to go. I hardly ever use the last name. And I'd like to also give kudos to Casey, who have had tireless meetings with club leadership to work out each of the unique needs that each of the clubs need to keep us legal, and to Donna and her committee for their attention to detail needed to accomplish this task. We may still encounter some kinks along the way, but I feel that we have a strong base document that gives some clarity to our clubs. Donna?
Thank you, Madam President, and welcome, everyone. We ready for this? Here we go. Page 1 of the RR&Ps, the striked out data in red was repetitive. Moving on to page 2, page 3, and page 4 and page 5, we have added the definitions of displays and gross receipts. Moving on to page 6, special events, that crossed out information is repetitive and is included inside the RR&Ps. Moving on to page 10 is just a grammatical correction. Moving on to page 12. This is Roman numeral 3. And again, the strikeout is because it references sales, and so it should be deleted. Again, there will be a grammatical correction in F on that page. Moving on to page 15. This is dealing with Roman numeral 7, maintaining a club charter, and specifically under A, number 2. I have had much feedback in this area. The active participation being at least 4 times per year in club activities and a club's ability to provide this data, especially large clubs, has been discussed extensively. The recommended change, Katie, if you would go to the updates, and the recommended change on page 15 for A, charter clubs must meet an active membership participation rate of 75% as measured by monthly CR monthly participation report and annual CR 15 membership report. Specifically, item number 2, active participation is 75% of a club's membership participating in club scheduled activities at least 4 times within the annual membership period as determined by the association. This is not a burden for clubs to have to look and keep track of individual members and how many times they have participated in a club activity. This is information that the association will be using in making determination as to whether clubs need to be evaluated. And again, it continues on page 16 with adding the verbiage, which is on page 16 of the RR&Ps. Upon implementation of association software, membership and participation data will be electronically available to the association and clubs. Are there any discussion from the governing board? Any comments? Oh, Harry, yes.
One question I got, wasn't this changed about a year ago where it was one time instead of 4?
You are correct.
And what was the reason for changing it? Because I don't think with COVID and stuff, the one time has ever been done by the clubs. How can we start changing stuff before we see whether the other one works?
Let me assure you that the information that was gathered in making the determination for this entry in the RR&Ps was based on data before COVID from 2019. And one of the problems that we discovered that was presented from staff to me personally was the fact that some clubs who were in trouble were having their partners come to an activity so that they could maintain their status and be compliant. And so we don't want that. We want for, if you join a club, we are anticipating that you really want to participate in that club and enjoy those activities. And it seems like 4 times for you to join a club within the annual time that you're here would not be unreasonable.
My question along that line is, how many clubs do we have a problem with? I've heard 5, 8, maybe clubs have a problem with, and the rest of the clubs, 90-some, are doing things okay. Aren't we using a sledgehammer to solve a problem that could be taken care of by the administration? And there are enough rules in place to take care of that?
I guess my comment would be, you know that bushel of apples and you have one bad apple and all of a sudden the whole bushel goes bad. And I would like to suggest that we've recognized a problem and this is how we think we should fix it for the future. Thank you. Yes, Sharon.
I have a problem. I have a problem as well with this. I don't think we should be penalizing 90 clubs because it is burdensome for them to have to track this 4 times a year. And we really didn't give anybody a chance to try once, number one, like Harry said, but also we haven't talked to all the clubs about what kind of impact this has on them in regards to the other 90. What are we asking them to do in relationship to what they already do? So I'd like us to wait and see what happened with the one first and give it a try. 6 months, 8 months, a year, I don't care, something. So we give it a try to see if that solves the problem. The other piece is then have somebody, maybe one of the board members sit down with the club president of the clubs that are there, the other 5, have us be involved in some way to help them out and make them understand what the rules are and that we can't have them doing that going forward. Talk to the 5 of them instead of all of them.
Vice President, the purpose of this is to prevent clubs falsely inflating their numbers to remain a chartered club. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
So if I have 15 members and I need 55 or 50 to stay a charter club, I can find all my friends to join and they never come, but they pay their dues. And that constitutes a club under the current rules. If they show up to a party one time, that's satisfying it. Under this, they would have to come 4 times a year, which would weed out those folks that are not involved. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Hello, this is Ann.
Hi, Ann.
Hi there. I understand what you're trying to do. I just want to make a point that I think this is something that we will be revisiting. As I gathered from the charter club meeting, the 75% figure was kind of an arbitrary figure set up. Is that correct?
We started from square one and worked ourselves up in discussion and determined that 75% seemed reasonable to us.
Okay, and I understand what you're trying to do. I hope it works, but I think we need to keep open minds as we move forward. This is maybe something that we're going to need to revisit. So I'm I'm fine with it going forward, but I do think, as Sharon said, this may put a burden on some clubs, but we also want to make sure that the clubs have enough members to truly be, enough active members to truly be using the space that they are requesting in our facility.
Thank you, Ann.
So that's all I have to say. Just wanted to go on record as
Thank you.
hearing that.
And Tim,
Yes, I just have a couple questions to clarify this in my mind. The clubs now present CR4s, correct?
correct.
That's on a monthly basis?
Yes.
So the clubs will now be required to present one for each activity?
No. Nothing changes in what clubs are currently doing. They will still submit the CR4 form, and as this update indicates, it says, as determined by the association. Nothing changes in what clubs are currently doing. It is a situation to where we've made this adjustment so that operations can fix just like what we have been talking about. The fact of if clubs are in jeopardy, they go out, they get their friends, they get their, to try to make their numbers, make them compliant. And that's not right. That's not fair to the other clubs. Other clubs who need more facility space, and the clubs that are shrinking, I'm sorry, we have to meet the demand of the community. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah. The CR4s now are manual. People put numbers on the paper, right?
Yes.
And there is a beta program for card swiping, is that right?
We are in the process of running a test with a few clubs and working with the software company to where hopefully that will be implemented to where we can eliminate some of these manual systems and people can just come in, swipe their card, hello, you are counted, here we go.
Okay, and when do we expect that to be rolled out club-wide?
I hope by 2022. Casey, would you, or Casey?
Yeah, it is,
Katie,
we're not quite in the pilot program yet. They did have some delays. It had to do with the monitors. We went back to the drawing board and redeveloped the software. So we're working out the bugs in it, then we go to the piloting. Once we have some data coming in from those pilot clubs, we'll develop reports. And those reports, we can do a variety of different reports. One would be, how many times did this member come during these 12 months? So the burden will not be on the clubs to produce that.
Okay, thank you. I just have another comment, and this is a forward-looking comment, and that is, the better data that we have on club participation, the better we can do space utilization. And we're going to hear a report a little bit later on about the future plans. And I just think the better data we have, the easier it will be for that project too. So, thank you.
absolutely. Lisa?
Thank you. Echoing what Tim has said, what I would like to see happen is maybe perhaps we can table this topic until the software is maybe in the pilot phase and able in more clubs and producing actual numbers, and the clubs are able to give, accurate information. And meanwhile, it does not prevent us from addressing the 5 clubs that we know are abusing the policy, if you will, and addressing them on an individual basis. And we know what they're doing. We know that they're fudging their numbers. And perhaps we address it that way. And I don't have a problem, we need to move forward with some of these RR&Ps, and I get that. But I think that this one, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse without having the software.
And again, adding the language as determined by the association gives no burden to any club, and they can continue doing exactly what they're currently doing. Yes, Tim?
Just a comment. I agree, having the software will provide better data. But we already have data with the CR4s. and
Yes.
That can be looked at now.
Yes.
And during the time that we use the CR4s to determine this and the time the software comes can be a trial period on whether these are the right numbers as to what to use.
Right. And again, I would like to make it clear that this is not something that the Charter Club Committee said, let's talk about. This is something that the association, that staff said, here is a problem that exists. Help us how we can fix it. And this is a recommendation that we are making to help staff do their job. And one last thing I would like to say. If the suggestion as determined by the association is not satisfactory for moving this forward, I have received another suggestion to replace that verbiage with clubs of concern may be asked to produce proof of above participation. Any comment?
Donna, I like that one.
Okay, you like that one. Okay.
I like it, and I think we need to recognize we don't want to put undue burden on clubs that are currently doing what we want them to do.
Right.
So anyway, just my comment is I do like that suggestion. I also like the idea that maybe we hold this one out until we do get the software so we can monitor it better. But whichever way, I do think we need some adjustments to this policy, this particular part.
Okay, any other comments from the committee? Madam President, how would you like us to move forward on this? Oh, we have a resident who would like to speak. Yes. Please identify yourself and give your rec card number, please.
Bill Weaver, 124087. My problem is with removing the 3 sentences in the preamble, just called repetitive. A lot of times things in preambles leave repetitive, and as much study and looking I've looked at, I did not find this verbiage in the RR&Ps. I did find similar stuff in the bylaws, but what I see here is removing a sentence that says, any profit must be incidental and shall not be part of the club's objective. And further, club members may not use facilities for any personal financial gain. That's extremely clear, and it tells people you cannot use these facilities to make things and sell things. That's been in the RR&Ps for quite a while, so I have trouble with removing that. And I think the board should ask each other or whatever, do you favor people using the facilities for personal financial gain? And also ask yourself if you have made gain, and do you have a conflict of interest in voting on this? And also, I wonder if these facilities are allowed by the IRS rules to allow people to have financial gain from nonprofit. So I think there's some issues there. I think it's extremely clear right in those sentences of the preamble that tells you what's clear and what isn't. If it's in the rest of it and the bylaws, they're not anywhere near as clear as this. This tells you up front what you can do and what you can't do. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. And I will just share that the sentence that you're most concerned with about the profit being incidental and no profit for personal financial gain, all of that language throughout the RR&Ps has been eliminated because we don't want any sales on rec center property allowed here. So it's no longer an issue because sales of any kind on rec center property is prohibited.
If they're still using the equipment for it to sell somewhere else, It's still in violation.
We cannot be responsible for what anyone does off rec center property.
You can tell them. I mean, Sun City West was built on recreation, leisure, not profit making.
Thank you.
Morning, Ron Wambach, 100988. On that 75% rule, I've got a question. I think you're looking at the floor level for chartered clubs is 50 members. Is that is that within the understanding?
54 craft clubs,
54 members, right?
50 for craft and
Yeah.
75 for social.
Okay, so to the point where you're talking about those clubs that are in jeopardy somewhere along the way, either fudging numbers or getting close, you can address that by establishing a floor somewhere along the way that until they reach a certain membership, that they need to comply with your request here of submitting this participation rule. But for all those other clubs, and I belong to too many clubs, and the participation rule for those, I mean, when you got, 300 members, 400 members, 500 members, they're not in jeopardy of doing anything, not even close to doing that, but yet you're putting this burden on them somewhere along the way to still comply with the 75% rule. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if you're close and you're saying you're dropping down, you say, fine, you have to hit a certain level when you put them on some sort of alert and say, hey, you got to comply. But why make all these other ones start to comply when they're way above any sort of minimums for charter club representation, unless you've got some other reason for trying to do that? That's my only comment.
Thank you, Ron. It sounds like you support the clubs of concern may be asked to produce proof of above participation.
My name is Sheila Makasak, 123691. The 75% rule, I think at this point is kind of premature. With COVID, we don't know what our new reality is. We have so many members that cannot come out. They have health issues. They're a primary caregiver of their spouse. We have 2 members in one club I belong to who have had double lung transplants. We don't know what our new normal is. Our membership attendance is way down. So to put this burden on the clubs at this point, I don't think it's going to be an accurate picture. But I think we have to think about our members who are in frail health and cannot come out and cannot take a chance. And we have so many of those. We try to keep in touch with them, and by being a member of the club, they get our emails and they are allowed to be on our Facebook page, because you have to be a member of the club to be on our Facebook page, and it keeps them connected to the world. And I think that you should reconsider the 75% rule. I think it's an undue burden to everybody in our community.
Thank you.
Good morning. Kathy Zeman, 130123. I'm the vice president of the Rockhounds group, and I was sent here because we're a little bit different, we feel, than a lot of the other clubs. So we're looking for some how to handle this. We have about 80 members currently. We meet here once a month in the lecture hall, only from November through April. The rest of our time, our club is outside, off-site. We're collecting rocks. So
Right.
We're just wondering, with this 4 times a year, first of all, we're down to only about 8 months where we're meeting. So people would have to be here 4 times out of the 8. Some of them leave, they're snowbirds, etc. So we just wanted some clarification on how we are going to have to come to terms with these requirements. We do have we have 2 items. Normally, we meet at the Beardsley Park in April for a closing picnic, and we meet usually in February, Palm Ridge for a party. So those are really our only type of functions on site, and we're just looking for direction on how to handle this, and it might require another time or another meeting.
Let me just share that we have added the 75% on rec center property. If you, under this particular section, Katie, if you go back to the RR&Ps on page 15, and I did not have this in the update because this was already approved to move forward. Membership participation is the action of taking part in club activities on rec center property. So Rock Hounds, when you're not on rec center property, you
Right.
are okay.
But still, if we're only meeting about 6 to 8 times on property and we have to have 4 times a year, that might be hard for us to achieve.
Right, and again, I don't know how much stronger I can state that this is not the club's responsibility to verify that your members are participating 4 times and that your membership, 75% of it, are active. The burden is on the association. They will be looking at your club and only looking at your club if your club appears to be struggling.
Okay.
Okay?
And then we will never have an electronic swipe, I don't believe, because we have no real place to meet.
Sure.
So we will just still be following the CR4 and CR15 procedure as this goes forward?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Donna,
And,
Donna,
yes,
this is Ann. I just want to chime in that it just dawned on me as I was listening to the lady with the rock hounds. I'm a member of the Sun City West Cyclists, and we have the very same thing. We have 2 social events a year on rec center properties, and we have 5 monthly meetings, and that's it. The rest of the time, we're out on the streets riding our bikes. So we will be in the same type of thing.
thank you,
Thank
Ann.
you.
Thank you.
Myrna Barnard, 133526. This is probably just a follow-up to the previous lady, and I kind of wanted to have a definition of what participation is and also how you can monitor that through your software. Many clubs have, particularly officers, but other people doing committee work that are not doing work on rec center property. They're probably doing work at home. They're organizing, a great example is organizing educational materials and going forward. So a lot of that is all spent outside of the property. And how do you even manage that in terms of your software? Is that something that we would have to keep track of by pen and pencil and then input it into the computer? Or if you have things, activities that are off center, say you have a picnic in the Ramada, how do you keep track of that participation? Do you troop them all into your facility, have them swipe their cards and then go out to the picnic?
Don't worry about it.
Okay,
Don't worry about it.
okay. I'll remember that.
Thank you.
Tracy Anderson, 132045. Hello, board. Thank you for serving, by the way. We know it's been a tumultuous time. I want to address the 75% issue. I believe, Donna, you said that it was a fair, that you came to that conclusion that it was a fair percentage. I would like to give you some percentages of some things that have happened. 66.7% of registered voters voted in the 2020 presidential election. That's a higher percentage since 1900. While approximately 78% of votes recalled Director Mancuso, only 34% of the community voted. The last governing board elections, approximately 17% of our community voted. Okay? I respectfully request the governing board send in back to the charter club committee, which I know you're working really hard on this, and I appreciate that, for further changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like you are the last person on this issue.
Saving the best for last.
I think that's how it goes.
I'm Paul Voorhees, 115249. I was asked to attend by the president.
Could you lift the mic up so that your voice is louder? Thank you.
Yeah. All right, 115249.
Thank you.
I was asked to attend by the president of the Spanish Club, of which I'm on the board. First of all, I have a general problem with the idea that a committee can come up with a rule that affects over 100 clubs and not talk to them about that, not ask for their input on how that would affect them. It seems to me there ought to be a notice going out with a 90-day period or some period for each club to respond, so to inform the committee on what they're doing. Secondly, I want to echo the comment made earlier that it seems to me that you're dealing with a few clubs that are fudging, cheating, whatever, and it's really not even the clubs. It's 2 or 3 individuals probably in those clubs that are falsifying records. And the idea of burdening 90-some clubs with a solution for those 2 or 3 is to me just the wrong way to do it. You need to deal with those individuals. Finally, I respectfully object to your bad apple analogy. And frankly, I'm offended that you suggest that because another person is cheating, I'm going to cheat. That's nonsense.
I don't think that's what I was trying to say.
That's exactly what you said.
I know I said the bushel of apples, but I did not mean that I was saying you were rotten. Sorry.
Okay. I hope you can hear me. Jen Wilson, I'm the president of the Women's Club. And I just wanted to understand events. If 75%, we meet every day except Sunday. So is it 75% they have to participate in our daily card playing activities?
No.
Or is it extra functions that we put on?
It is annually. So you have, say, 4 club events a year, and you have 100 members. We are hoping that 75 of those 100 members somewhere participated in one of those 4 events.
One of them?
Yes.
They don't have to participate in 4 of them?
No.
As I say, because I have 530 members in my club, which do not show up because of the pandemic.
Sure.
However, I can't fit 25% of that. I mean, 75% of the people in my club.
I understand.
Okay, so they only have to come one time.
No,
4
because
times.
we were talking about the 75% of your membership.
Okay, but if I do 4 events, each person, each member has to come.
No.
Okay, I'm not understanding it then.
If you, oh my goodness gracious, Casey, yes, please share. Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
First and foremost, I just want to clarify that we understand there was just a pandemic. We understand that there are clubs that are affected by the pandemic. We are not going to penalize any club in the year of 2022, probably not even the year of 2023. We understand that clubs have to continue to build their membership. We have a lot of new homeowners that have moved in the course of the last year or so. So there's a lot more to drive. If this 75% is worrisome to you guys, we are listening to everything that everybody is saying. We're listening to the board members. I've had conversations. Donna has had conversations. We understand this is kind of a hard part to comprehend. I am in the world of we just need to make sure that our rooms are being used to its fullest occupancy at possibility. There are so many rooms that have maybe 20 members, 30 members for a room for 400. So our guys are setting up for 200 people and only 36 show up, so on and so forth. And again, I understand some of you, it's only 5 clubs versus the 103 that we currently have, but it's just to put something in place for the future. I have no problem, as Dory and Phil and myself have been auditing clubs. No other club is in any jeopardy whatsoever. It's just something to implement for the future. So I do recommend we do move this forward. If there is some new verbiage to be recommended, we are all open ears.
Okay. All right, I'll go with that then. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Casey. Very, very good. We're going to have to end our discussion here, otherwise we could be here overnight. So those that are standing, we will have no more discussion on this issue, please. Yes, go ahead. We have 3 more.
My rec card number is 71328. I'm president of the Agricultural Club. What I want to know is what constitutes a club function?
A scheduled event, whether it's a board meeting, a membership meeting, a social gathering,
We are an
class.
agricultural club. So our club functions is growing vegetables. Is that considered a club function?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's not a scheduled, it's never scheduled. The people go in there when they want to go in.
Right.
They leave when they want to leave.
Right.
But it's not a party, it's not a club meeting, and it's not a board meeting or anything like that.
You're growing vegetables.
Right.
Hopefully,
but I just wanted to make sure that
vegetables
was
or
a club
flowers.
function. And the second part of my question is, we have a lot of members that are snowbirds, and they're here for 6 months out of the year. Maybe 5, maybe 4. So theoretically, they can't do this 4 times a year because they're not here.
They're in the garden.
Huh?
They're in the garden working, right?
No, but if they're snowbirds and they're gone,
right.
Well, and they're in them quarters, we can't count them. Okay.
It's an annual thing.
It's
They're
not-
in the garden 4 times,
4
hopefully
times a year.
within that
Oh,
year.
well, that's not, okay, that's, information I got, it was 1 per quarter,
No.
so,
Per year.
okay, all right, that's all I needed to know. Thank you
No
very much.
problem. Pardon? I can't hear you.
Can I make a comment?
Tim wants to say something while we're signing in.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to explain something, and that is the Rec Centers of Sun City West, Inc. and charter clubs are 2 separate entities, okay? Chartered clubs agree to hold the RR&Ps, that they will work by them, in exchange for the rec center allocating space, okay? So if you have a club that doesn't use space or it uses outside of the things, this is really not going to apply to you, okay? It's basically a trade-off, okay? If your club wants space and heat and air and electricity and all that kind of stuff provided by the club, you agree to live by the RR&Ps, okay? You're 2 separate organizations. Okay, so the RR&Ps are just your agreement that you're going to live by these, so the rec center gives you space. Okay, I don't know if that helps, but I think it's a distinction that people miss.
Hello, Jack.
Hi, Donna. Jack Leary, 128260. Based upon all of the clarifications that I've heard that needed to be done today and the understanding, and Tim's comments, I wonder if we're measuring the right things. So if the idea of space is the issue, why not set a occupancy rate for the space and then measure who actually signs in? But the hard part is the padding the roles issue. If the club has a high occupancy rate, then can it be assumed that they've got active members in the club? Most businesses and most things in life, 20% of the members do 80% of the work. Would that not also pertain to the clubs?
Again, I would like to share that, just like you said, if a club facility space has occupants in it that is reasonable for the space that they use, they're not even going to be looked at. As Casey said, it is the space that can accommodate 400, and there's only 20 or 30 in there. They will be looked at. And again, I'm going to keep on repeating this. This is the association's job in monitoring this data.
I completely understand and agree with that.
Okay.
Another thing that kind of bothers me about this is that it sets a threshold that implies that there's something will happen if that threshold is not hit, but that is not spelled out in this statement. So my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Sheila Macasack, 123691. If they have no plans to enforce this in the next few years, why shouldn't it be tabled and take it up at a later date? It comes down to a trust issue, number one. I don't think there should be correct me if I'm wrong, the people on this dais who are elected represent us. A person on the staff should not be standing up here recommending it be approved. That should be between you and us. And I think because it's not a good time right now to enact it, I think that part on the 75% should be tabled until in the future when we have a better handle on our attendance after this COVID calms down. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we are, if there's any board members that have any more comments to make, I think we should go around. Oh, yes, Jim.
I have a question on page 37 on the clubs.
We're not there yet.
Oh, we're not to page 37 yet?
We're not page 37 yet.
I thought we were done. I'm sorry. Good.
We have just begun.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Just begun.
Donna?
Who's calling my name? Sharon.
I just had a request or a question. Is there a way to take this and table it and make a motion now to do it, or do you want this done at the
I
end?
think that what we should do is we should have a board vote as to, first, do we want to move it forward or do we want to table it?
Okay.
Okay? Yes? Tim?
Donna, just a point of order. When you bring this, the RR&Ps to the board meeting for a vote, are you going to do these changes en masse, or are we going to go through these individually?
If we were to table this, I would take this particular item out and present everything else that is approved to move forward.
En masse?
Yes.
Okay, I just want clarification. Thanks.
Okay.
Donna, would you want to then take that particular section out and have your committee then go back at rewording it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Sue?
Roberta?
My only issue is if it's this many people coming up and asking for clarification, I don't think it's very clear in the document what we're trying to achieve. And I believe a document should stand on its own, not need 47 people coming with their own interpretation, that it should be very clear. That's my issue with it. And I really think this should have been reviewed by the clubs before it became part of the, coming to the board.
Just a comment that the Chartered Clubs Committee has representatives from many different clubs. So they did do some discussion, but it appears that it's not clear and we need to rework this. So yeah, I'd be in favor of pulling this out and tabling this section until we can come to some kind of agreement that's comfortable for all of the club members.
Sue, do you need a motion?
No, we don't need a motion because at this meeting, we're not voting, we're just, yeah. And I think from hearing what the rest of the directors have said, I think you're kind of in agreement with me. Is that with pulling it out for right now?
I just need clarity that we are just removing the 75% of a club's membership must have participated in club activities. We are just removing that part of Roman numeral 7, maintaining a club charter. We are still keeping in A, 1, 3, and 4.
That's my understanding, that we're just reworking that number.
Yes. Just
That item.
reworking number 2.
Right.
Yes, Tim?
I would also like us to take a look again at that section B of the preamble. The charter clubs must comply with Internal Revenue Tax Code 501c4. That's not exactly true. It's 501c7.
No, this is the
that governs
association.
the association. All right, but to me, that's confusing.
Okay.
Okay, and I think the line that's been struck out, all clubs, all 501c7 clubs, where it says all clubs, it should be said 501c7 clubs, and then keep the rest of that struck out point.
I'm sorry, I am confused,
Okay.
Tim. I'm
Th-
like,
This is the
so,
preamble, Article 2, Section B,
correct.
and you had, the committee had struck out, therefore, all clubs must have a purpose of recreational, social, or leisure. Any
Right.
profits must be incidental. That's like straight out of the IRS, and I think that needs to be included, with the caveat, all 501c7 clubs.
Okay, so let me just share that the committee had to review the whole RR&Ps, looking at the situation of not all clubs are 501c7s anymore, and they can go to be a 501c3 or C4. And so if you are a C3, you are not specifically just a recreational, social, and leisure club anymore.
Understood, that's why I think we need to specify 501c7 clubs.
Could I just say also that if you eliminate this, you have now taken away the club's ability to enforce people doing production work in a club, such as the metal shop or the wood shop, those kinds of things. So I have nothing to point at if I see somebody making 100 digits to go sell on their own somewhere. Because you're not supposed to be making profit.
Hopefully that's in their bylaws.
Well, it is in the bylaws, but it should be in the RR&Ps only because that's what the clubs go by. That's what that's my working document in a club. So if I can point at something and say, you're not supposed to be doing this, that's what I think we're losing if we take this out of here.
Okay. So is the board comfortable with me removing this strikeout? But
Yeah.
Tim, you want me to, can I just remove the strikeout, or do you want
Well,
me to
where it says
add-
therefore, comma, all clubs, it should say all 501c7 clubs.
Okay.
Again, I think that this is something that we're going to revisit in a year or two when these clubs kind of settle into what they're going to do with themselves legally. So I think this is something that we're going to come back to at some point.
All right, but to move it forward, I will take the strikeout off and I would add 501c7 before clubs.
Yes.
We are good with that? Yes. No. Therefore, all 501c7 clubs must have as a purpose of recreational, social, or leisure activities. Everybody okay? All right. Moving on to, we are in the RR&Ps, and we are moving on to page 20. And again, the red was recommended to move forward to the workshop here. And there was some, in the Properties Committee meeting, it was addressed, there was a problem with the language in item 7. And so, Katie, when you go to the updates, we are looking at page 20, item 7, to be changed to the non-recreation cardholder guest policy adopted by each charter club and its bylaws must address the number of times a club member may bring a non-recreation cardholder guest to a club activity per year. The confusion in that was the very last sentence was a non-resident cardholder, and it should have been a non-recreation cardholder. So if everyone is okay with that, we will move forward. Any comments? All righty. Moving on, page 21, it is just the deletion because it refers to sales. Moving on to page 22, again,
Donna.
the information in red, I'm sorry.
I just had a question on 20.
Sorry.
Excuse me, on 21.
Okay.
It says those, who do you actually mean in 21, on page 21, when you're talking about example 4? Is this,
Okay, I'm sorry. You'll have to ask me that question again. I was
Sure.
busy wondering,
says-
where's that busy?
It says charter clubs are intended to be used by the association members for the express purpose of pursuing and
Where,
encouraging. Oh, I'm sorry. Page
where are you reading?
21 to 22, and it's number 4, sorry. We're adding.
Okay, all right, we're on page 22 at the top, number 4.
Yeah, are we stating that this is the way, I mean, number C says clubs shall ensure displays warrant public view. Displays are a direct reflection on the club and association. For sale signs are not allowed. Displays can contain individuals who are interested in a display. Can they put names on them? It doesn't state whether or not you can have your name on it.
Number 2 says displays may contain artist name only.
Oh, okay, number 2, displays may contain the artist's name only. So their name, but not the club's name. That's why I'm asking. Is it just their name?
Yes.
Not the club?
Correct.
Was there a reason so that they don't know how to find the person? I'm just saying
I'm assuming that the display is either a club window or club facility.
Okay. Well, some of them share windows, so that's why I'm asking, because some of them do that. So if I don't have what club that is actually pertaining to, if I want to reach the artist, that's kind of why we were doing this, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So how do they find them? I didn't want a lot of calls going in if we put the name of the club plus their name on it.
Okay, I could add artist name and or club name.
Sure.
Would
Thank
that
you.
be good?
Yeah, it was a question that someone called and
Okay,
asked.
contain artists? No? Okay, I got
Well, I think you
no's.
want to be careful of not promoting the club. Typically, when windows are shared between two different clubs, don't they usually have a sign that says, this is the ceramics club, or that's not a shared one, but some kind of jewelry thing, or shared between a certain sewing club and a certain different club that shares one. Usually you have a sign that shows that display is from that club. I think that mostly they do that.
Okay, so we will move on to B, and Kate, if you go to the updates, the update recommended change is participation data. All clubs shall provide monthly participation figures to the Recreation Activity Manager's Office relating to their club activities. Form CR4 monthly participation report is due by the second Monday of the following month. Failure to comply may jeopardize the club's charter. Then it was suggested to add annually low charter club membership participation numbers or club inability to accommodate membership participation in club facility assigned space will be association monitored, discussed with the club, and may result in space allocation modifications. And I would like to make a suggestion that with this additional paragraph added, I believe we could just possibly totally eliminate number 2 that we were going to table. Because this paragraph gives the association the opportunity to work with clubs when they fall short in their participation numbers or inability to accommodate their membership demand.
Could I think
Yes, Jim.
I don't have any problem with what you're saying. I think an addition might be in order, though. What I know about Casey Huda's staff is that when a club comes in with low numbers, they first of all try to help them raise their numbers to appropriate levels. And I think that needs to be added into this. A pro thing, this seems like a hammer that we're going to tell clubs if we get an opportunity. And I don't think that's at all what we're trying to do, nor what Casey's trying to accomplish.
Right. Well, and again, it specifically says the association will be monitored,
Right.
discussed with the club, and may result
Is
in
there something,
space.
can we put something proactive in there, like we're going to work to raise the membership
Tell me what you
somehow?
want me to say, Jim.
Well, assist in raising appropriate membership levels or something along those lines. I think that would be helpful too, to not have just a hammer.
I do think that is in another section of the RR&Ps. I'd have to look through it to find that, but,
Right, it has to do with membership numbers.
Okay.
This deals with participation.
Well, there's
Club
clubs that,
membership numbers, it specifically says the association will work with the club.
is there a
This
problem
is-
putting it in this one as well?
No, if
Thank
you
you.
tell me what you want me to say, I'll write it down.
What
and
you
then
just
we'll
said
try
was
to-
perfect.
What'd you just say?
You can go back and replay this, Donna.
Yeah, just assist club in generating appropriate membership numbers or something along those lines. And I know that we do that already. It's not something that is new.
All right, I will just add, the association will work with clubs.
With clubs to assist.
To generate appropriate membership numbers or something along those lines.
Donna?
Work with clubs to assist in generating.
And we do. We don't
Of
just
course.
shut them off.
Let me
We
see,
give
what
them
did
a
you say?
year,
Yeah.
a full calendar year, to try and increase their membership.
Right. And I know we do that. I think we just need to say that so we can have some hope instead of a hammer.
Understood.
Okay, association will work with club in generating numbers. Okay, Karen, what are we saying?
Well, I'm a little confused because I'm not sure where we're inserting this, first of all. So I need to understand, I have the phrase to assist clubs in generating appropriate membership numbers, but I don't know where that gets inserted.
Right after allocation modifications.
Okay, so in-space allocation modifications.
Period.
period.
Yes.
And then, well, I don't have a full sentence here, to assist clubs.
Association will assist clubs.
The association will assist clubs.
Yes.
Okay, will assist clubs in generating appropriate membership numbers. It's very difficult for me to
Yes.
hear when there are a lot of sidebar conversations. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
Donna?
Lisa.
Sorry.
Yes.
So Casey added over the next year. Do you not think that that should be in there? Because she works really hard with the clubs to get their numbers up.
Remember that there is a whole section on membership, and that is included in that. And I believe that that should cover it. Jim's comment was just that we should reinforce it again in another place. So I don't know that we need all the detail, because I think the detail is in that other section.
Right. And again, this is talking about membership participation numbers. This is not membership. This is membership participation numbers. Two separate sections. We okay? Karen, are you okay? I have association will work with clubs in generating membership participation numbers.
The association will assist clubs.
Okay.
In generating appropriate
Thank you.
numbers,
Okay. We are now moving on. All right, I'm on 23, I'm going to 24, and that, again, we are just inserting the fact that we now have a document, donations, memorialization, naming, and advertising guidelines, and that is attached to the appendix for clubs reference if they want to do donations, memorialization, or naming such. Moving on to page 26. Yes.
Dave Rigg with the 126957 is my record number. I'm with the softball club. I just wanted to read a statement. You kind of glossed over part of the right before what you were talking about. I'm concerned about the apparent goal to eliminate the use of billboards at Liberty Field. I've not heard directly from Mr. Schwind or Mrs. Huda, because I know they've been busy, but I've been told by members of the other clubs that they have met with that there are three primary reasons they don't want billboards. One is that the billboards create an inequity among the clubs. One club might ask why the softball club can have billboards and they can't. Second is that the rec center management can't control the content of what is on the billboards. And third is the IRS and exceeding the 35% rule. There are a number of inequities among the chartered clubs besides billboards that we've heard today. Besides the level of income, the billboards are really part of sports tradition. Every ball field from the major leagues to the little leagues has billboards. Of course, part of that is for income, but is also to beautify the ball field. I've never heard a comment from anyone that Liberty Field looks tacky with those billboards. That's like a church without a steeple. Does the church need the steeple? Not really, but it's tradition. Liberty Field's in a high traffic location. Sports clubs attract new residents who come here to remain physically active. I came here for softball, but over time I joined the Zymergy Club, Agriculture Club, ARC, and Boomers. And I would not have become involved with those clubs had it not been for softball and the attraction I got and still get from the beauty of Liberty Field, which includes the tradition of the billboards. The general manager controls the content of the billboards to include how it looks. The clubs can control the 35% income level simply by calculating the club's income through dues and other income and reduce the contract dollars to remain legal in the eyes of the IRS. You're making a mistake, in my opinion, if you try to monitor, measure, and govern every club the same. Every club has its own personality and primary purpose, and we've heard that today. A broad brushstroke for all clubs is not feasible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I think that will be handled with operations. Correct, Mr. Schwinn? Sure. Thank you. Okay, moving on, we are on page 26, and this was under professional counsel. That was, any comment? Tim. Oh, Tim, yes.
Donna, did you skip 23?
Let me look. I don't believe I skipped it. I think I said it was moved forward. There was no comment on that. Do you have a comment? Okay. Okay. Again, returning to page 26, this is under professional counsel. Again, if there's no comment, Harry, yes.
My comment is it says each club can get their own professional counsel. What happens in a case where a club gets professional counsel that is in total disagreement with our professional counsel? Are we not opening the door for a lot of lawsuits and a lot of expenses? I think being a retired CPA, when you deal with attorneys, they only make money when they argue with each other. And this is opening that door to create some real problems.
I hear you. And I think that's between the attorneys. I mean,
No.
I'm
sorry, it's not between the attorneys. The attorneys want to get paid.
Right.
It's between the administration and the clubs.
Donna? Yeah. Yeah, Donna, I would just want to refer back. They are two separate organizations. Really, the only thing that connects them is the allocation of space and the club's approval of the RR&Ps. So legally, that's the only thing that binds the two clubs in the association.
But also, don't they view the tax returns and check all of these things to make sure they're complying?
Mm-mm.
They don't? Okay, I'm sorry.
I like it when someone else handles the problem. Okay.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Donna? Donna?
We will move.
Donna?
Oh, Sharon, yes.
To Tim's question, then we don't pay for insurance for the clubs? We are tied to the clubs by insurance as well. And the assets. You can't say we're not tied to them. And the charter, right.
Yes,
What
Tim.
we insure is the facilities, the equipment, and the liability associated with those things. We don't insure the club itself. We insure the physical assets that the club used.
Correct. The assets belong to the association.
Correct.
All of them.
All of them.
Thank you.
Moving on. We are now on page 28. And again, this was eliminated because it was already covered under special events. Moving on, we are now in page 31. And Katie, if you will please go to the recommended updates. And again, this is the result basically of Properties Committee meeting. It was recommended that tax status classifications be added to the RR&Ps. And so this is Roman numeral 2 has identified as tax status, and it says, note before it begins, charter clubs may apply and qualify for any 501c nonprofit tax status with Internal Revenue Service. Club research of IRS qualifications is necessary and remain IRS compliant. Below is just a sampling and guidance is available through association. 501c3 organizations typically created for religious, charitable, educational, scientific, and/or educational intent. 501c4s, a social welfare organization such as a civic organization or a neighborhood association, an HOA. 501c7, social clubs organized for pleasure, recreation, and other non-profitable purposes. Organizations primarily supported by dues, fees, charges, or other funds paid by their members. And then, important, 501c7 charter clubs may not receive more than 15% of gross receipts from the revenue of goods and services from non-members' sources. Comments from the committee? Sharon?
First of all, I had to ask you the other day, has a tax person actually seen these definitions and okayed them?
I personally have not sought an attorney to review these, but
No, I said a tax person, not a...
tax person.
Yeah.
Usually,
Like-
my understanding is we'll go to the attorney and he has a tax expert that
Okay.
gives us information. So, Mr. Schwinn, please.
Ma'am, thank you. I wouldn't say a tax person, but these were cut and pasted off of the IRS webpage.
So are they complete then? That's the complete definition of a 501c3, 4, and 7?
No,
ma'am.
it says below is just a sampling and guidance.
Okay, so first of all, that implies to someone that a 501c4 is a social welfare organization such as a civic organization and a neighborhood association. There are other types of things that can be a 501c4, including some of our clubs who have been told they can't be a 501c4 by the staff here. So I don't feel that it's correct to be able to say it in the RR&Ps that it's one way when people have come to speak with staff and have been told that they can't be.
I would just like to share, Sharon, that, again, this is just a sampling. This is just giving you an idea. And we're saying you need to do research and check to see if you qualify. If we were to try to put all of the explanations that are on the website for these tax statuses, we would have another 444 pages.
Oh, I don't disagree. My problem is that we're telling people, though, that are in clubs that they cannot even apply as a 501c4. They have to be a 3, apply as a 3, or they have to stay as a 7, and that's not correct.
Casey, I would love to hear from you.
Super.
Go ahead.
So we have never forced anything on any clubs based off of any, during my term here at this point. So it's 3 months, I believe. So while I've been here, we have never told anybody they can or can't be anything they do not want to be. I know that there was a club that just voted and they chose to be a 3. They had discussion within their club as a 4. We did not deny that. So that is up to the club. I believe what has been denied upon is the umbrella as the 4. So that is the only thing, because it's not available through the IRS as we speak. Bill has spoke about that, I believe, at the annual meeting. So individually, if a club wants to go as a 4, we have never said no separately. Only the umbrella portion.
All right, we will move forward, or I'm sorry, we have Jack. Yes, Jack.
Jack Leary, 128260.
Yes.
On that statement up there, it said that clubs may register with the IRS. Does that mean that they may not? Or should that say must?
Well, if they want space.
So then it should be must. Then the other comment I had is, rather than actually putting in a subset of the IRS rules, why not just put in the links to the IRS so that people can, if you're going to ask them to do research, why not give them the access to the source? The other reason you might not want to put a subset in there is if the IRS changes those definitions, then you've got to change these bylaws again.
You know, Jack, I sat in front of my computer and I thought, I should be able to just say IRS tax status. And then I could go and find out, what's it say from 501c3, 4, 7? It wasn't like that.
Well, when
I
we-
can just say, go to irs.gov, and then they could try to.
You could say, these are the typical choices that may be available to a club. See the IRS for the definitions that are most suitable for your organization, something like that.
Thank you, Jack. Okay. How are we, do I have any other comments from the committee? Can I move
No,
this
except you just
forward
called
as it
committee
is,
personnel
or
longer.
I need to hear recommendations? Hearing none, I will move this forward.
I'm not going to give you his name,
Donna.
but you spoke
So
with
there
the
are
person.
no insertions of pointers,
There are
You know, I
no,
haven't contacted him.
no pointer insertions,
I will do that.
like a reference.
I can say, club research rights, question session.
I would say, does the board want to add the link?
Okay.
Tim?
I think I'm coming around to the opinion that we should strike all of the tax status stuff and just say that the clubs must comply with appropriate IRS rules. A fan.
Okay, so you are comfortable with just leaving in charter clubs may apply and qualify for any 501? Must, okay. Charter clubs must apply and qualify for any 501c nonprofit tax status with Internal Revenue Service. Club research of IRS qualifications is necessary, and all 501c charter clubs must be and remain IRS compliant. And I'm going to delete. Below is just a sampling. We are good with,
And the important, the last is also struck out, important 50C, all of it.
Clubs may not receive more than 50%.
right.
Okay, it's all
Do we-
struck out.
We're striking that out. I'm a little uncomfortable with striking that out. Pardon?
Why take it out?
Yeah, I think we can just include that under,
Under the note, as a second paragraph.
right. Take out note, and it just says charter clubs must apply, and then we will have a second paragraph under that that just says 501c7 charter clubs may not receive more than 15%. We're good with that? I'm sorry, Tim?
I think a statement that charter clubs must comply with applicable IRS standards should be enough. I really question whether we should be itemizing what they have to do.
Okay, so I'm saying, are you comfortable with, under tax status, we have the paragraph, charter clubs must apply and qualify for any 501c nonprofit tax status with Internal Revenue Service. Club research of IRS qualifications is necessary, and all 501c charter clubs must be and remain IRS compliant. That is a paragraph in itself.
Right.
And then there is a second paragraph under that that says 501c7 charter clubs may not receive more than 15% of gross receipts from the revenue of goods and services from non-members sources.
I would
keeping
strike
that in?
I would strike that.
You would strike that as well?
Donna, isn't that also listed in a different section?
No, this is the only area.
Only
that-
area that talks about the 15%?
Yes, I believe it is the only area, because again, it deals with revenue.
It's not a bylaw.
This is not a bylaw. These are our R&Ps. Okay, if you want to speak, you need to go over to the microphone because we are on audio.
We may have
and,
to give you your own mic.
Just trying to help you out here. Is this on? Yet you typically don't want language like that from another organization in a formal document that you're going to have voting on to change or to update. So my recommendation is, I agree with Tim, you need to take all of that language out below the first paragraph, and then put it, if you want to put it someplace, put it into a handbook for creating a new club or something like that, where you don't have to go through a formal process to update it and change it.
Thank you, Jack. Okay,
Bill Weaver, 124087. Just a quick comment. Are you also striking out that guidance is available through the association, or do you
yes.
want to let people know that the association will help? I mean, I can see striking out the bottom part, but also, I mean, it seems like if you want to
All
help,
right,
that
so it is recommended that we leave the verbiage, guidance is available through association.
Yes.
All righty, thank you. We can do that.
I disagree.
Oh, sorry.
I disagree.
Sorry.
This
Here we go.
gets
Me
into
too.
the point of the association giving tax advice to people.
Right,
I think we need to just steer clear of that.
Yep, agreed.
Sorry, you've been overruled.
Hi, I'm Ann Becknell, 118578. The tax regulations clearly state all these percentages on the website. So if you're doing as we said, and we're saying that the clubs must comply, you don't apply, but you must comply with the regulations for the various 501c3, C4, C7s, those percentages, the 35%, 15%, those numbers are all in there. So I don't think you need to be repetitive in your document, because if you're pointing them to this website or to the tax website, the information is there already.
What is the tax site that you have there? I'll copy this.
I pulled up the IRS.gov site and asked to see 501c7.
All right, we will just do IRS.
You could put each one if you wanted to put the link to each one, but it specifically states in there the percentages and the amounts.
Thank you. We'll just do IRS.gov. All righty.
Donna, I have one other comment.
Yes, Tim.
As you go down to the next session that's not lined out, excuse me, association requirements for club IRS forms. Copy of all
I'm
forms.
sorry, I need to.
This is
Where
right
are
below
you?
where we were on the original document.
Okay, so we're back at the RR&Ps, page 31.
Right at the very bottom.
This is association requirements for club IRS forms.
Right. It says
So-
copies of all forms and correspondence with the IRS proving compliance and with the IRS and Arizona Department of Revenue confirming compliance must be provided to the office of the recreation manager.
So what I'm hearing is you would like to have language added to that paragraph. Copies of all forms and correspondence with the IRS and the Arizona Department of Revenue confirming must be provided to the office of
Confirming compliance, right.
confirming compliance. All right, I will read it again. Copies of all forms and correspondence with the IRS and the Arizona Department of Revenue confirming compliance must be provided to the office of the Recreation Activities Manager. Jack, you're not at the mic.
I'll save you the trip. Annually,
Thank you. Can you have what? Okay.
Donna, one more
Oh,
comment.
Sharon.
Sorry, one more comment in regards to that. Right now, everyone's sending in their bylaws if they're trying to change to a 501c3 or whatever they're trying to do. So are they sending you copies of that because there's IRS forms included?
That's with Casey.
This says annually, so I'm asking if they should also be doing this whenever there's an IRS form that has to be something that's changed. I'm just saying, if Tim want, I mean, if we want to do it annually, you might change something. So you have to notify the association is what I'm trying to get at.
So if clubs are looking to pursue this avenue, then they are required to get membership vote. So as they revise their bylaws, they have to follow the same procedure as if you were going to make an amendment or any changes as that is considered. But so we have done that with 2 clubs thus far, and both have, the membership has voted and was in favor to convert. So annually, for your question, I believe this is for the financial aspect of it, correct? So if they want to change anything in their bylaws, that would go through as if they were doing any kind of changes for anything from the board or the club themselves. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
All righty, moving on. We are on page, I'm sorry, yes.
I heard reference to a pointer to IRS.gov. Are we including a pointer at the end of Roman numeral 2? Yes.
Yes.
Refer to IRS.gov?
Yes. Yes. Moving on to page 32, it was approved to move forward the sales, Roman numeral 4, 501c7 charter club sales of any kind on association property is prohibited. Exception requires recreation activity manager approval. And the deletions on that page again reference sales, and that's why that is X'd out. Moving on to page 33, we are just, again, having clubs define income, member or non-member. Again, same thing on page 34, page 35, and we move to page 36. And again, red has been approved to move forward, and the green is the last update on the August 31st regarding operation accounts for clubs.
What item is that? Nobody has green.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's under G. And again, this is a paragraph that was added. Accounts, this is G, bank accounts, and the paragraph says, accounts are for the financial operations of providing for the recreational, social, and leisure interests of their members. Year-end balances should be no more than 110% of the previous year's operating expenses. Recreation Activities Manager may approve exceptions. Sharon.
3s, 4s, 7s, what kind? Because they are not the same. They are not the same. So the amounts of money that they're allowed to keep in different accounts is not the same as a 3 and a 4 and a 7. So you're putting all charter clubs into one. This is what I was trying to explain the other day. You have, if there are parts of this in regards to the financial operations, they have to be identified as different. And if you're going to start having 3s and 7s and 4s, it needs to be looked at. So I'm just asking you to know that this is not correct.
Bill, tell us.
I think going back a couple of pages when Mr. Hurley was talking about removing a lot of language and referring to the IRS, then I think I would recommend taking this section out, because the IRS will then determine, based on C4, C7, C3, how much money you can have on your books.
Thank you. It's the same type of information, right?
So if we, on G, if we say account should not exceed the amounts allowable by IRS.
Why do you have to say anything? If they're already complying, why do you have to say anything? Because there's numbers of different complying.
Okay, so you want G totally eliminated?
I do.
I do.
I don't know where we are.
We're on page 36. And G, this is bank accounts. And so I understand what you're saying, but I still don't have a good feeling about this.
Get over it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
I owe you one.
Well, we do need to understand that the RR&Ps are also to help presidents and treasurers of clubs know what to do. So maybe we leave it in and we just plain state that they should look at the
But
tax
if I'm
stuff.
a 501c3 and I'm the treasurer and I'm looking at that and it's not
Yeah.
the right information,
Right.
that becomes more confusing than it would be if you sent me
Yes.
to the IRS page.
Yes, but maybe we should say that. Please check the IRS.
But above, we've just talked about referring them to the IRS website, and this would all be included in that, so I think it's
Well, that could,
redundant and
yeah.
it's confusing.
Okay. So you're recommending just to remove it?
Sue?
Or we could just say accounts must be IRS compliant per club tax status.
They're gonna get in trouble if they don't do it by IRS standards, right? So why do we need to say that?
Okay, I will just delete it then.
Thank you. I'm glad you're over it.
Okay.
Donna, this same thing is the question of F then, when you say chartered club fundraisers, is this for 3s, 7s, 4, again?
It's for all.
So a chartered club may have a fundraiser to raise funds for a specific club need and must be fulfilled within a 3-year period. All funds received must be for the club members only and deposited into a fund for a specific purpose. That is not necessarily the same for a 3 and a 4. Lisa.
Okay. If we can, I'd like Director Maloney, if we can, I'd like to finish with G first, and then maybe we could go back to F.
Okay. G has been officially deleted.
Deleted.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with that. I think
Thank you.
that's the best way.
And now we have Sharon who is questioning F, which is Charter Club fundraiser. She is asking if that explanation applies to all 501c clubs. And I was told it does. But maybe my source was wrong. Yes?
I think we just fall back into the same repetitive motion about we have to refer them to irs.gov because it's going to be different rules for the C3, C7s, C4s if they happen to become a C4. So they have to adhere to whatever the irs.gov rules are telling them. And it's, you know, having been a past treasurer, I think that's the simplest way for them to go. If you want F deleted, Director Standenheim, you'll have to.
Okay, here we go. Okay, Jack,
I'm getting my steps in today. If you're going to delete F, you probably ought to delete E.
So are you saying clubs cannot have charity fundraisers if we delete that?
Well, the sentence is wrong, so.
No, I'm not saying that they can't have fundraisers, but again, we're telling them rules that are probably published by the IRS. They should be in compliance with the IRS.
And also, Donna, the last sentence is wrong if they're a 501c3 because the tax, they are deductible at that point. So the sentence is, the whole paragraph is wrong in the new concept of what we're saying, of the three different categories.
I mean, you could have a single entry that says chartered club fundraisers and just say be compliant with the IRS.
I like simple. Charter club fundraisers must be IRS compliant. Hey, I did that all on my own. All on my own.
So Donna, that's letter E, chartered club fundraisers.
That is, charter club fundraisers must be IRS compliant, eliminates E, F, and G.
But E becomes that one sentence you just read.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's a pointer, refer to www.irs.gov or not?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so we are now on page 37, and it was H, but now it will be an F. If you want to hear me, you'll have to be quiet. Okay, so we are on F, and that's page 37, and Katie, we are into the updates.
Donna,
And,
Donna?
I would just like to say that I am not responsible for this update at all. This comes from accounting, and this is their verbiage. And it says, clubs with an aggregate equipment value over $5,000 may establish a reserve fund for the future repair and replacement. This fund balance should consider the following: acquisition costs, useful life, and inflation factor. These components are used in calculating a fully funded balance. Clubs are encouraged to hold a separate reserve fund with a goal of at least 25% of the fully funded balance. To assist in the calculation of the fully funded balance, please contact the finance department of the association. Does that sound professional or what? That is really good.
Donna, that's actually E. We took out E too, so you're not on F.
No, we have a line at E. Yes.
It's nice to know I'm not the only one that gets
There's
confused
a-
in this.
Vice President? Vice President?
Everybody, oh my goodness. Yes, Jim?
I appreciate what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to make sure that we have reserves to buy new equipment. I'm a member of the wood shop, so just for a disclaimer here, a wood club. Our equipment is about $475,000 in value, which would make out, we have to have $100,000 in our reserve funds, which is not reasonable for a club to do. That's a lot of money.
Did
So
you see
there's a
the
lot of
word that said goal?
I was just going to say, there's a lot of mays and goals and those kinds of things. And so I suspect that this will not be enforced with consequences should they not be attained. Would that be accurate?
I believe that is accurate.
Thank you.
May I ask Director Sloan a question?
Yes.
Actually, it should be directed to the chair, but I believe if the equipment in the wood shop is owned by the association, and if it goes bad, the association will replace it. I believe what this is referring to.
No, that's not correct, Tim. That is not correct. If a saw goes down, the wood shop replaces that saw out of our funds. They own it, but we replace it.
All right.
We like that. Okay. We are all okay with moving that forward. And moving on,
Donna, can I just get a clarification on page 37 of the poll document? The old government requirements, it was listed as I, now becomes G, that is in, right?
correct. Thank you. And surprise, surprise. Page 41, we are, again, this was just approved to move forward, and I will just read it. We've added a D. It says all capital project requests over $5,000 must go through Charter Clubs Committee for need versus want, Properties Committee for facility space availability, and Budget and Finance Committee for financial responsibility. I like that. Okay, moving on, page 42, and we are,
We have
oh my goodness. Yes,
Go ahead,
Harry.
What does chartered clubs have to do with capital projects? I mean, a capital project, I understand that you go to the capital properties committee, but why a chartered club committee? You're telling me that if the woodworking club requested, it has to come to you, and somebody from the metal shop says, I don't think they have it, so I'm gonna vote against it. That's how I read that, and I don't think charter clubs that have anything to do with the capital projects. A charter club should bring its capital project forward, it goes to properties, it goes to budget and finance, but I don't think you have to go through 3 committees to have a capital project request.
I appreciate what you think, but this has to do with policy, and policy says capital projects have to go through the committees, the standing committees. And those are the Charter Club, Properties, and Budget and Finance.
That is in the policy.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. And again, moving on from page 43, 44, and 45, this is the village store, and suggestion is for that to be eliminated based on hopefully the recommendation of Budget and Finance Committee. And I would like to just end with drawing attention to page 42, and I only want to do this because there has been a number of questions that I've received regarding assets, and specifically because there are some clubs who are interested in changing their tax status. And as a result, the question is regarding assets. And on page 42, financial procedure in case of club dissolution. If, for whatever reason, a club disbands or a charter is revoked, all club assets, monies, and equipment shall be transferred to the association prior to formal dissolution, unless the club has attained an IRS tax status 501c3. In such cases, the Recreation Activities Manager will assist clubs in effecting dissolution. All club incurred debts must be satisfied prior to final dissolution. So I hope that that answers those questions regarding the assets. And in summary, I guess I am asking that everything be moved forward with the additions that we have recommended, and we are not moving forward the 75%. That will be tabled back to the Charter Club Committee.
So then,
Could I just say, I think that you need to be congratulated on the work that's been done by your committee. This is a huge, huge project, and I know that it's at least 2 or 3 years in the process. So this is not easy, and I think you've done an admirable job. Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you very much.
okay, do I have do I have consensus with the group to move this forward to a vote with the changes and the exclusions, et cetera, that we discussed? Okay, great.
Just one question, Madam President. When can we expect a clean copy before the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Donna will work on that again. With Karen. Karen has taken clear notes, and that will clarify things.
Madam President, is this also going to go to the Finance Committee as the clean copy? Is that not, because it hasn't gone there yet?
No, the policy goes to the properties, or not properties, but B&F. The R&Ps do not go through them. Question?
Yeah, my name is Dick Rhodes, and my rec card is 125790. I think the first thing I want to say is I want to congratulate the board. I think they have done an exceptionally professional job in discussing this in a very professional and collegial way. Donna, I have words for you. No good deed goes unpunished. I want to echo Jim's comments about the work that you put into this. The only suggestion that I would have is that we have literally eviscerated all of the examples in our documents. And we've kind of left the clubs out there kind of at their own devices. Now, I come from a background of having one policy and 175 different organizations that we left them up to interpret that. That doesn't work very well. So what I would ask you to do is consider having some type of a guide. I think someone suggested that earlier, to have a guide for the different clubs with perhaps some more examples. And that gives them a basis that they can look at that and they say, well, that sounds more close to what we're doing. And I know there's a balance between offering tax advice and ensuring that the clubs have sufficient resources to know where to go to look for it. Okay, thank you again.
No, don't leave. I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
I think that that's a great idea, and I think we could attach such a thing to the appendix of the RR&Ps. And I'm just wondering if maybe you, with maybe Jack, who seems to be kind of like experts, if you would like to, produce such a document for the committee to review, I would really appreciate that.
I was just thanking you, Donna, for
I
doing
know.
a good job.
So I just know what good work you do, and would you be so kind?
Could I say I would take that under advisement? Yes, I'd help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully I'm the last one here, Ron Wambach.
Be careful, you just saw what I just did.
I did. I appreciate that and all your work that you do, Donna. And it follows up pretty much to his comments. And maybe it's to Casey that I should be referring the question. Yeah, I addressed this previously, I think in some emails, and I said, let's not all start running off. We don't have to recreate the wheel every time we go around this. If we have 501c3s that are going to be applying for this, do we have a trial balloon that we're setting up, that we developed that bylaw, that application? Because there's a process that goes through it. And typically you don't have to be really too specific outside of identifying the name and a couple of specifics, and the rest of it is relatively boilerplate. Rather than us going through this and having each different club that wants to go this route, I think we should probably develop some sort of a template to go through and to say, here's what you got to do. And maybe even because we got time to do this, IRS is kind of slow in their responses to these filings. I haven't done one for 20-some years, but when I did, at that point, it took a while for them to get back. Sometimes they have questions or not. Rather than having everybody submitting different disparate types of applications and bylaws, I think we should perhaps look at a boilerplate and say, let's do a trial balloon, send it through. If it gets approved, have everybody else adopt that type of a format, and we don't have to reinvent.
I am listening to this, and I'm thinking, he needs to join Dick and Jack.
I don't mind.
Really?
I don't
You
mind
know, Dick said it was
participating.
under advisement, so please, that
Right.
would be wonderful.
But I don't know if Casey's got a response or anything.
Oh, I'm sure Casey is. Yeah, go. What do you think, Casey?
This paperwork means nothing. All right, so where is he? Ron, there are 2 clubs that are in the process. The one club is kind of the trial process. They have probably been since submittal, maybe about a month and a half. Is PVP here? Mary Kay, anybody? About a month and a half? Okay, so since submittal, they're still waiting. They said it could take up to 6 months, correct? So that they are kind of our true trial. We did have another club that agreed to go on and attempt the conversion, which was the Western Airs. So that just started. They have not submitted yet. Theater West is in full discussion with professional consultants along with ARC as good, loyal community ambassadors, Tom and Susie Jones are. And so, Suzanne, I'm sorry. That's the second time I've been called out today. So to answer your question, Ron, there's only a few clubs that have came to us with the will and want to do this. I know there's a lot of clubs that are thinking about it. So the clubs that are thinking about it, I would absolutely recommend that they hold off on it for now until we do get full results from PVP and Western Airs at this point. Those are 2 totally different activities, if you will. So it's kind of good to see from A to B. Does that answer your question a little bit? Before any club starts the process, they do have to communicate with us on that. So we are trying to keep everybody on the same page with the same resources, if you will. So it is accurate. Mary Kay is with the PVP, and she's also on the Chartered Club Committee, and she's the one that has been helping out with a couple of the clubs as far as how the application process goes. So it is consistent for our community.
Okay, we're going to take one last guest comment and then take a little bit of break until we get on to our other items on the agenda, which will be short, I promise. Okay?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, I'd like to welcome Tim and Jim back through their baptism by fire. You should remember this is not an easy job, but you had this nerve to come back, and we're glad you're here, so welcome. But last, I'd like to call attention to the fact a message today has been sent to this board. We are listening. The fact that you got this kind of crowd at a workshop should give you a feeling that the community cares. We do have people willing to get involved, serve on committees, and be helpful. But I'd like to give a round of applause to all of these people who showed up. Now, some did develop saddle sores and have left, but you had almost a full room, and I think that's to be commended. So thank you, owner members.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. That's it. Be fast. when all else fails. Okay, is the microphone working now? Okay, can you hear me? No, it's not working.
Hello.
Okay, is this one working? Oh, yeah, well, hello?
Hello? No, nothing's working.
Does anybody? Does anybody else have a microphone that works?
This is a test. No.
No, it's not working.
Okay, now we're working. I'll call the meeting back to order. 4.04 is capital project status. Many projects have been accomplished and are still scheduled. Pete Finelli, our CEO, can you bring us up to date financially?
Thank you, Sue. Excuse me, the FY 2021 capital budget was approximately 5.9 million. As of June 30th, there was approximately 1.5 million which had not been completed or paid for. There was 26 individual items in that 1.5 million, but there were 4 projects that individually exceed 100,000 that comprise the vast majority of that 1.5 million. Those are the metal shop renovation, the R.H. Johnson swim fitness flooring replacement, 25 golf course carts, and the golf maintenance networking. All 4 of those have had POs issued upon them and are moving towards completion. So that's pretty much the update.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? Okay, thank you, Pete. We're moving along rapidly. 4.05, we've had some legislative changes. Each year, our association attorney keeps us up to date with legislative changes that may impact our operations or our bylaws. Katie will give us a short review of those items, none of which would require a change in our bylaws, but it does help to clarify some issues and gives us some guidance in operations. Katie?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I am no legal expert, but I have interpretation from our attorney on these bills that were passed, and they do affect Title 33 communities like ourselves. So we're only dealing with those Title 33 type legislation. So most of these go into effect September 29th. There is one exception I'll talk about in a minute. COVID liability, mask mandates, political signs, writs of garnishment, judgment liens, and special event liquor licenses. So the COVID liability, this is sort of a safeguard for us. It essentially makes it much harder for somebody to sue us for if they contract COVID or if a loved one contracts it and passes away at any of our facilities, or they want to allege that they contracted at our facilities. It makes it a much higher bar. So if we act in good faith and if we implement reasonable regulations to control this virus as far as we can in our facilities, that's the protection. As long as we're not negligent or willful misconduct, we're pretty well protected. And anyone that would try to sue us would have to provide clear and convincing evidence, which is a pretty high legal bar. So it's good news for us. The mask mandate, a while back, the county had enforced a mask mandate for all of Maricopa County, which did impact us. This essentially says no cities, no counties, or the state can force a mask mandate within their jurisdictions. Now, as a private association, we could enact one on our facilities if we wanted to, but the county could not force us to do that. Political signs, not a huge change. They still allow you to put political signs out 71 days prior to a primary, but it expands how long those signs can be up after the primary is done. So instead of 3 days, if the candidate has lost, they can keep their signs up for 15 days, or after the general election for 15 days again instead of 3 days. This one very rarely would impact us, if at all, but if we did a garnishment on somebody in the past, we couldn't include our attorney's fees in that garnishment. We could just go for the original amount in a writ of garnishment. This allows us to roll the attorney's fees into that collection so that we're not forced to pay for those ourselves. And then the judgment liens, homestead, this one's fairly complicated. In talking with Riley in the CC&R division, it would rarely impact us. Essentially, a homestead exemption safeguards homeowners so that creditors can't go after the equity in their home. In the rec center's case, when we have assessments, we have a contract with those homeowners, so the assessments or past due assessments are protected by a lien. So that's how we would collect that money. But if it was at a cash award, say they were up to date on all their dues, but they weren't cleaning up their property and we had to send someone in to clean up the property, we won a cash judgment for that. In the past, we would have trouble collecting that cash judgment with the equity in the home. So this kind of opens it up for that. It does increase the amount of equity that's protected from $150,000 to $250,000. So above and beyond that, if they have more equity, or if they try to refinance and take cash out of the home, we could collect on that. In some cases, it could allow you to foreclose on the home. To my knowledge, we've never done that. We have no plans to do that. The chance of this impacting us really at all is very small. The special event licenses, in the past, our chartered clubs were able to get special event liquor licenses and apply with the liquor board for that, but not too long ago, they started denying those because the clubs were not registered with the Arizona Corporation Commission. Most of our clubs are not. So this changes it so they can basically apply under our umbrella, our 501c4. We would sort of vouch for them so long as they don't have any past history of violations. They could then apply for those liquor licenses under our 501c4 umbrella. So it actually doesn't change much of what happened in the past. It just closes a problem that had risen up in the last year or 2 years ago. So not too much more on that. That's a summary. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Harry?
Katie, have the clubs been notified that how to get a liquor license through you or the 501c4?
No, I don't believe formally we've done that, but Casey could answer that more specifically.
It's in the RR&Ps that they are required to do so. Actually. No, they have not. As far as I can send a MailChimp out, that's fine. And it doesn't begin until September 29th, right?
Correct.
So that is on hold until that date. So Jim, when Mike came to me, it just was not available at that point for woodshop.
Casey, do you have a president's meeting with all of the clubs coming up?
In October, we
Okay.
do, but
And that could be an appropriate time too.
Oh yeah, we'll absolutely talk about it. But some are going to need to start that process before then, because it is cumbersome. Sure. Oh.
Lisa?
Casey, is there going to be a limited number of licenses available to the clubs?
It will be 30 for us. We have never hit that, so, and I don't foresee clubs doing so. And these go with your special events, the 2 that you get per year, just to clarify that a little bit. If you're doing anything separate from that, it's going to cost you extra because, you know, those are the 2 free events that you get.
Super, thanks, Casey.
Sharon?
It specifically states that it's for a charitable or nonprofit event. It says event receipts are for a charitable or nonprofit purpose. Are we following that guideline?
For our sevens, they absolutely would have to blanket themselves if it's a charity.
Or under our 501c4, we're a nonprofit. They're doing it under our umbrella, so it's a nonprofit event.
Right. If a club wants to have a charitable event, then they would have to find a charity to blanket themselves. Thank you.
Any other questions? Questions from the audience? Okay, thank you for that information. Okay, 4.06, master plan process. Plan for the future of Sun City West Rec Centers is essential to giving direction to our board actions. Thus, we are embarking on the development of a master plan. Sharon or Jim Sloan, I believe you'll be talking about this process and the plan and the involvement of the board and the staff.
Right. I'm just introducing this today, Madam President, and the Sun City West bylaws direct the general manager to conduct a 5-year master plan. There have been a number of these and done, and typically the general manager would undertake the process, notify the board that it's happening, and then if appropriate, ask for input from directors and the community. Last year was the time frame for the 5-year plan, and for various reasons, it did not happen. The board has identified as a goal to do a master plan, and as a goal which is in line with the board having responsibility for long-range planning. The board has begun with staff. This process has begun with staff taking the lead to develop the plan. The general manager has contracted with a research firm, Epic Strategies, to research best practices for over 55 communities in the United States. Sources will include other communities, both nonprofit and profit, educational research papers, and so on, looking for a broad spectrum of data on what's going to be happening over the next 5 years. That data will then be presented to a working group made up of key staff and 3 board members. The group will evaluate for inclusion into our master plan, the data in our master plan. Feedback will be solicited from the board, from employees, and from members of the community, and after that, information is received and the appropriate data incorporated, the final master plan will be written and presented for implementation. This is an effort to look forward in the next 5 years to see what's happening, to prepare for the next generation. We are very well positioned to continue attracting retirees to Sun City West. Houses sell almost as fast as they hit the market, and in January of this year, Consumer Affairs was part of a research project ranking retirement communities in the United States. Anybody want to guess who was first? Villages. Who was number 2? Sun City West. Sun City West is not a big deal. That's a very big deal to be number 2 out of thousands, hundreds of communities. So this is a tribute to the past leadership of Sun City West, boards and staff that have led us to this point. The community and the board will be hearing much more about this over the work that is going to be done, and we hope to get this happening this year and finish it by June. I'll take questions, or we can take questions.
Any questions from the board?
No, thank you.
Kind of an informational item.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much with your report. Okay, that kind of concludes our agenda. Are there any general director comments that any of the directors want to make?
Sure, I never miss the opportunity.
Okay, Tim.
I just want to say, it's nice to be back on the board. It's nice to be back on the board with the other fellow directors. And I think today shows that we can have a good discussion and move things forward in a professional manner.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, any guest comments beyond what's already been talked about? Go ahead.
Bill Weaver, 124087. As I was looking at RR&Ps and searching through different documents, I realized there's a reference bylaw 311, and it says that it gives 4 instances where a written ballot is required. One of them in particular is the removal or election of governing board directors. And then later it says that the governing board can do what it wishes. I think that bylaw should be fixed. I don't think it should give 4 instances where a paper ballot is required, and then you have another section right after that says, but you can do something else if the governing board wants to. I think that's confusing, and either make it one or the other, either get rid of them or just have one.
Okay, I will refer that idea to Tim to take a look at when he's going through the bylaws.
Okay, it's bylaw 3.11. And then also standing rule number 4 is out of date. The references to the bylaws in it are inaccurate, and so, I don't know, just some.
Yes, and thank you that you've been reading things. And interestingly, standing rules are not identified as something that we need to have by our bylaws. Okay. So that's something for us to look at.
All right, then one last thing, and that's policy C02, says that the chairperson of the election committee will be named at the same time as the chairs of the other standing committees. I'm wondering who that person is, and
Yes,
was that person named?
Marshall Adams
Marshall Adams.
is handling the election committee and the process, and the candidates that are interested, there'll be information starting November 1st. They can pick up packets.
All right, thank you.
Oh, Lisa.
I'm sorry, I didn't get in quite quick enough on director comments, but what I wanted to share was when I was heading out during the break, one of the residents stopped me and wanted me to share with the board and the remaining residents that they appreciated coming to the workshop and the great job that the board did today in having the discussion that we had with the RR&Ps and getting things accomplished. And they appreciated that there was no animosity and we were able to have a healthy discussion and that we listened to the residents and we heard what they had to say, but we also were able to have discussions amongst ourselves. And I really appreciated that. I appreciated working with Jim and Tim and the rest of the board, so thank you.
Yes, and I just, most of the audience now has kind of gone away, but I do appreciate the fact that you did attend the meeting, as Kay said, and that we were able to listen to your concerns and have a real discussion. I know it took a long time, and that becomes awkward, but I think it was time well spent, and I appreciate that. Okay, our next workshop, if you want more, is October 8th, and then our regular meeting will be September 23rd, and that will be a more formal meeting. And if you haven't attended this meeting, you might wonder, wait a minute, let's talk about this stuff. Well, that's what we just did at this meeting. So the next meeting will be a little bit drier, so to speak. So I'll adjourn the meeting.